What's up, my peeps? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here. So today's video is going to be very different. It's something that I've never done before, and let's see how it goes. I hope it goes really good because I really do want to upload something different. I have an unhealthy knowledge of serial killers, so I thought, why don't I just tell you guys about the serial killers while I do my makeup. I will leave all my sources at the bottom in the description box. The main source is going to be the podcast. I love these podcasts. I'll leave them in the link below, but like I said, they go in depth. Like each of their rendering of each serial killer is 2 episodes of 45 minutes each. So if you guys are really interested in serial killers or mysteries, they have a whole bunch of podcasts. Go ahead and check them out. They are amazing. I do not want to glorify serial killers, and I do not condone their behavior. I do not think that what they did is right or any of that, okay? So I'm not here to glorify serial killers. I'm here just to give you information about serial killers. I've always been fascinated. I think it's mainly the psychology bit that gets me, and there's always been this interest in true crime and serial killers, so I thought I'd bring that to my platform because it's something that I really enjoy. So the first serial killer that I'm going to be discussing is one that I think is very fascinating, and I feel like a lot of people don't know about him. His name is Robert Willy Pickton. He was born October 24, 1942 in Port Coquitlam County in Canada. So this serial killer was born in a farm. So his family raised pig farms. Willy, we're gonna call him Willy because that's mainly what they refer him to as. He grew up on a pig farm and was born on a pig farm. They actually called him the pig farmer as his serial killer name. And he is said to have killed 49 women, and he was only convicted for 6 murders, but he was accused of 26, but he confessed to 49. Again, the only reason why he was sentenced to only 6 murders was because that's the only evidence they found, which is crazy. Like, how do you kill so many women and get rid of the evidence? Well, we'll get there, but it's insane. So we'll go ahead and start with Pickton's early life. Like I said, Pickton was born on a farm. It is said that the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, and it could have caused brain damage because of the lack of oxygen. Pickton's family wasn't the most nurturing, I can say. His mom was a little demanding, and she was kind of like the boss, and his dad was distant and kind of off. For them, growing up there was different than anybody else. His parents didn't really care about hygiene. It would have the livestock just come in and out the home like nothing. The family would hardly ever bathe, maybe once a week, and they didn't really care about anything. All they cared about was maintaining their livestock. Well, at a young age, Willy and his siblings were constantly made fun of. They were bullied at school. They were referred to as names as in piggy or pig boys. It was him, his brother, and his sister. And they were constantly bullied. They went to a middle class school, but they were just not kept up. These kids, they stunk, so everybody would make fun of them, so that made them withdraw even more. Obviously I'm not gonna want to associate myself with kids that bully me, so Willy was really reserved, and I think that's where a lot of his mystery comes in, because he wasn't a social person, and I think at a young age he learned not to be social. Willy was also diagnosed with a learning disability and a speech impediment, which just aggravated the bullying. Again, not liked because of his physical appearance. He smelled really bad, and he probably never changed his clothes. And on top of that, he had a learning disability. So you can see where a lot of the bullying was taking place, which is really sad. And again, it could have added to his antisocialness, because of this isolation, he didn't really have a lot of friends. He mainly spent his time with the pigs. So at the age of 12, Willy bought a calf. He bought a calf. He saved some money and he bought a calf. He loved this calf. It was said that this was the closest like object that Willy was to. This is like what he attached himself to. He really, 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 really loved this calf. He would run home every day to go feed his calf, right? So then one day, Willy comes home from school and his calf is missing. And, you know, he's distraught. He's like, where's my calf? You know, he's looking for it like crazy. He goes, asks his mom, where's my calf? It's missing. What do I do? His mom tells him, go check the barn. Willy is not a stranger to, you know, dead animals and things like that, because his family did slaughter pigs and they would sell the meat. That was just part of their business. But when Willy walked into the barn, his calf was hanging upside down and it was slaughtered. As you can see, Willy was devastated. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, a lot of people's like, it's just an animal. No, when you get attached to an animal, it's like a person to you. So I can just imagine like his pain that he felt. He probably felt so betrayed by his parents. And then the one thing that he truly loved is now gone. So, you know, his dad told him, get over it. If you want, actually eat some of your calf so it can make you feel better. Obviously, Willy didn't, but this was where Willy shut down. At that moment, he did not show any empathy, any love towards anything, because his parents just proved to him it can all go away in a matter of seconds. So that was the point where he just disassociated himself from any empathy. And, you know, I think this was like a really turning point for him. So in 1963, they actually ended up moving to another piece of land, a bigger piece of land where they can raise more pigs. The pig farm got so big that they had 700 pigs and they really, really needed help keeping up with the land. So at the age of 14, Willy and his brother dropped out of school. And for Willy, it was even better because he'd rather be at the pig farm anyways. So at that time, he picked up an apprenticeship and he started to learn how to butcher pigs. That way, once he learned, the family didn't have to take the pigs to a slaughterhouse. They can just slaughter them at home. So another turning point, I'm going to do my eyebrows. So if I cover my face a little bit, I'm sorry. So another turning point in Willy's life, I would say, was when his brother was 16. He went for a joyride. He went for a joyride in his dad's truck. Right? He had just turned 16. He got his license and he went on a joyride in the middle of the night. So while he was going on this joyride, he ran over another boy. The boy's name was Timmy. He ran over Timmy and he freaked out, right? So as soon as he ran over him, he went straight home and told his parents. His mom told him, don't worry, I'll take care of this. You wash the car. So he told them, wash your truck, make sure there's no blood on it, there's no evidence on it. I'll go take care of the body. So his mom left to go take care of the body. Mom saw the body and she rolled it over into a ditch. In the ditch, there was shallow water. And then they cleaned the truck. But there was a dent in the truck. So Dave, Willy's brother, took it to a mechanic and was telling the mechanic, you need to fix this right now. No questions asked. You need to fix this right now. And the mechanic got a little bit like thrown off, like, whoa, like, why do I need to fix it? Like, I'm not going to fix this. And he told him, I'm not going to fix it. So the mechanic got suspicious and he called the police. The police arrived at the Pickton house and asked them about what had happened. And, you know, they lied. But then they soon found out that it was them who ran over the young boy and he died. So the autopsy of the young boy showed that the impact didn't kill him. He could have survived, but because the family was so scared and the mom rolled him over into the ditch, that ditch drowned the young boy. So they could have saved him, but they decided not to. So it's murder. But when they went to court, the judge ruled it as an accident and no charges were filed and no conviction was drawn. Okay, so that's his early life. And I think that time is when he learned the two most important lessons. Don't show no empathy, and you don't always get in trouble for things that you do. So let's fast forward a little bit. So, they're still living on the farm, doing their thing, and Willy's parents die. Both of them within a year of each other. They both died from cancer, and now it's up to Dave and Willy to, take care of the farm. Dave and Willy decide to sell a portion of their land, and they get a lot of money for it. Like, a lot. With that money, they decide to open a mechanic shop as well as their pig farm. They're still, pig farming and things like that. Dave is very social. He likes to interact with people. He likes to party and all that good stuff. And Willy is reserved. He just keeps to himself. Only, my only concern is the pigs, and that's it. So Dave actually gets involved with the Hells Angels, which I find is very, very that the podcast only mentioned this, but the documentary from Canada that I watched did not mention any of this. They didn't even mention his brother. They opened up this mechanic shop, and Willy was actually really, really good at working with cars. He would do side jobs. The Hells Angels would bring them a lot of cars for them that were boosted, that weren't exactly their cars. And, they would sell them for parts and things like that. Because he got involved with them, they actually were starting to throw a lot of parties. Because of these parties, the brothers actually started getting a lot of attention from the police and about the missing cars. So, they got a bit suspicious, but ultimately all the cases were inconclusive and the cases were dropped. So nothing was, nothing happened with them. So again, because Dave was so social, he had no problem picking up women, right? Willy, on the other hand, did. He was very antisocial. He kept to himself and things like that, so he couldn't pick up women. So then he resorted to prostitution. So he would pick up prostitutes and do his thing, and sometimes the prostitutes would go missing. In Vancouver at that time, I don't want to say the police, but I think in society in general, they didn't see those women as members of society. They were horribly stereotyped, and honestly, they really thought that with them gone, they're better off because it's one less prostitute. It's a horrible, horrible idea to think of a person that way, but that's how they thought. They didn't care that these women were missing. They would just disregard them and tell their families, well, she is a prostitute. Like, what do you expect? She's probably out somewhere, or she probably left just with some John or whatever. And, well, that's the life that she chose. And, that was their view on it, which is very, very sick. It's like, that is a human being. Like, you don't do that. And unfortunately, a lot of these prostitutes were Indigenous women from Canada. So that even adds to the stigma. They're like, well, they're Indigenous women, who cares? And it's sick, but that was their mentality back then. And it's really sad because if they would have cared, they could have stopped him. And the fact that they didn't just, increase the body counts, which is really, really sad. Organizations would try their best to get these women found, and police would just ignore them. Like, they didn't care. Although the convictions were from people that he killed from 1991 to 2002, people think that he started killing as early as 1979. The reason is this. So he hired some teen boys to work on the farm with him because it was just him by himself. His brother was out doing whatever his brother was. And these kids were always suspicious of him. He acted kind of weird and things like that, but they were just like, okay, whatever. And then one day he gave them some frozen ham, and the frozen ham looked very suspicious. Like, it didn't look right. So then there was two kids. One kid told him, don't eat it. It looks weird. Don't eat it. And it's like, don't ever eat meat from their farm. And then the other kid's like, okay. So then he opened the packaging, and the packaging had pork, but it looked gray and it was stringy. Oh, that visual to me always gets me. It's like, it's so gross. stringy meat is mainly classified with human meat. So in the podcast, they go more in depth into the psychology of this and like how this one researcher went to like this place where they eat cannibals, and he compared the meat that they were eating to human meat. It's gross. Okay, but that's what the kids described it as. And some people at the parties that they would go to would say that the meat wasn't quite right. That again, it had that gray color to it and that stringy texture. So it's speculated that he fed his victims to his party goers, which is very, very, very disturbing. So yeah, so that's some of the ways that he got rid of the bodies, and that's how they think those early killings were done, through the mixing of the pig meat with the human meat. Okay, so Willy only had 2 survivors. Well, 3, I guess. So the first survivor was Tracy. Willy picked her up at a hotel and offered her $40 to perform fellatio on him. She agreed, and they went back to his trailer. After the deed was done, he accused her of stealing, and he got very, very angry with her and started yelling at her and grabbed her arm, and she was struggling, and she was able to break free, and she ran off. And he caught up to her and told her, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for accusing you of stealing. I found it. I found whatever it is I was looking for. I'm sorry. I'll take you back now. I'm not mad anymore." And their farm was in the middle of nowhere, so she really didn't have an option. So she got in the car with him, and he took her home. And he just gave her this sob story about how, "Oh, I help a lot of prostitutes, but they always end up like stealing from me and relapsing, and that gets me very, very frustrated. And that's why I reacted the way I reacted." And she was just like, "Okay," and just kind of dropped her off, and that was that. That's the first known survivor. The next one was much more serious. Her name was Wendy. Wendy was picked up by Willy for sex. But she kind of didn't want to go with him. She felt like a bad vibe. So she didn't want to go with him, but he offered her $100. I don't think he had intentions of paying her, but she went anyways. So they got back to the trailer and they had sex for about 5 minutes. She went to go call her boyfriend, and in the midst of the distraction, he handcuffed her. When she realized, he handcuffed her by one arm. When she realized that she was in danger, she began to fight back and, broke the grip. She ran into the kitchen and grabbed his butcher knife, his favorite instrument. He grabbed his butcher knife and she cut him. But in the process, she also cut her hand, because when she tried to grab it, she cut her hand. Oh, can you imagine? But she ended up being able to cut his face. So in that struggle, she runs out. He runs after her. And, they're fighting. And they are both cutting each other. Right? So then, as they're fighting for the butcher knife, he grabs a hold of her, holds her up by her neck, and is about to stab her. But then he collapses. He collapses because of the blood loss. So then as soon as he collapses, she takes off running. She is cut up. Intestines are like out, and she's running, and she's just running and running and running. She runs to a house, and there's no one there. No one opens the door for her. And a car pulls up, and it's an elderly couple. And she tells them what happened. They're obviously a little put off. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? They're a little put off, but they believe her. And they take her to a hospital, and she survives. They call the police. Everything goes through, right? Day of the court case comes up. She is a no-show. She doesn't go to court. Willy is off free. Scot-free. Because if there's no one there to press charges, then you don't have a case. So he essentially got away with attempted murder. But what the police said, it was just an altercation between both, because Willy had defense wounds. So they just dubbed it as an altercation between two people. Instead of him attacking her, no. It was just because, it was a a business argument, which is because she's a prostitute and they disagreed on something, which is ridiculous. Can you imagine? I'd be so upset. But anyways, he was scot-free. Nothing was ever brought up in that regard. So after this, Willy's brother became very concerned for him, and he just disregarded it as like, oh, he doesn't know how to pick prostitutes. So he hired somebody to find prostitutes for his brother, and he told her, find losers, find people who are not going to complain about him, find girls that would do anything and anybody for money, and make sure that they're drug addicts. So that way no charges or anything would be held against Willy, because his brother thought, oh, he's so like antisocial that these girls don't understand like where he's coming from. But if he gets girls that, you know, will do anything and don't really care, then that's fine. But in reality, these women were perfect for Willy because nobody was going to be looking for them. And that's very, very sad. So all these women are going missing, and the police is like, oh no, we don't have a serial killer. These women are just leaving on their own. But more and more women, more and more families came forward, and the police is like, okay, well, maybe it's a Green River Killer, because the Green River Killer was also operating at that time in Washington and in Oregon, and he was spotted in Vancouver during that time as well. Right? So then they're like, maybe it's a Green River Killer, but he's not here anymore, so it's not our problem. In 1999, Pickton had hired this lady named Leanne, who was a drug addict, but she was also a bookkeeper, to help around with finances. One day he told her, hey, come with me, I'm going to go pick up a prostitute. And she was a little hesitant, but she's like, oh, whatever, I'll go. So she goes. They bring her back to the trailer, and you know, Willy's doing his thing, and the Leanne, she goes into another room and does her drugs while, you know, they're doing their thing. Well, several hours later, she wakes up and she realizes nobody's there. She's like, what the heck, where did everybody go, right? And she sees the barn light on, and she's like, what the heck, like, why is it on? Like, he probably isn't slaughtering animals at this hour. She walked in and saw that prostitute that they picked up, her dangling feet and blood everywhere. He had slaughtered her. As she was about to run out, Willy grabbed her and told her, if you tell anybody about this, I will kill you. You will be on that hook. Terrified, she left. She's like, I am not doing this. I'm out. I promise you I will never, ever, ever, ever tell anybody. But, like, I promise I won't tell anybody. And he let her go. Doesn't know why. You know, like, she doesn't even know why he let her go. But she was mortified. And I totally get it. I would be too. So then there is this accusation that the Pickton brothers are or have illegal weapons on their farm. And, you know, this sparks the police interest. Not because they're looking for the girls, but because of missing weapons or unlicensed weapons or whatever it may be. I find this very odd, because the police are more worried about these missing weapons or these illegal weapons than they are of the women who are missing. Like, this is wrong. But at the end, it did get them caught. So the police are like, okay, well, let's go check it out. See if we can find these weapons. They go, and they don't find the weapons. But one of the officers finds an inhaler with the name of a missing victim. So, because of this clue, the police went back and got a search warrant for their property. Once this happened, everything changed. Everything. So, they came back and they found a lot. That they first found purses, IDs, belongings of the missing woman. And then they found body parts. Yep, in his freezer, he had body parts. He had ground meat mixed with pig meat and human meat. He had bones, jaw bones buried in his backyard, teeth everywhere. And the police were just at awe as to, wow, all this was here. And if they would have just paid attention, they could have stopped him. So they find all this evidence, right? And they match the evidence, the DNA, the meat that was found, with the victims. And they release the victims' information that they found them and they are indeed dead, right? So obviously there's a lot of families with missing relatives, and these girls realized that one of them was their cousin. Their cousin was killed by Willy. That's not the only thing though. They were invited to Willy's parties and they ate the mysterious meat. They could have possibly ate their cousin. Yeah, that's very, very morbid. On one of the videos that I was watching, the aunt, the mom said that, oh, my nieces called me and said, I'm sorry, aunt, I think at one of those parties we could have possibly ate our cousin. And they were very hurtful and they were very sad about it. But can you imagine? I couldn't. I wouldn't. I don't know. Excavation took 21 months. Yes, 21 months. And they found all sorts of evidence. You know, they found bones, teeth, they found meat in his freezer, they found IDs, they found purses, they found it all. Willy was officially charged with 26 murders, but he was only convicted of 6. The judge decided to split up the cases with the 6 and the other 20 because some of the evidence was not as strong as the other evidence. Like the DNA evidence, you can't deny. It's there. But things like IDs and things like that, you know, can be circumstantial. So that's why he wanted to divide them. He was tried and he was convicted of those 6 murders in the 2nd degree. He was not charged of 1st degree murder because the jury felt that it was not planned, which I don't think it's right. I think he should have been convicted of 1st degree murder because he had a plan. To kill this many women, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You don't just wake up and I'm just gonna go grab someone and kill them. No, you have to have a plan, especially for not getting caught. So he was charged of 2nd degree murder. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. He is eligible for parole in the year 2026. Yeah. Right now he is 70 years old, still in jail, rotting away where he deserves to be. But I still think he deserves more punishment. So they needed him to confess. Willy is not the smartest guy, but he knows not to tell on himself. So what the police did is that they put an undercover cop as his cellmate. And I watched this video and I can tell he was a cop. You didn't have to tell me he was a cop. You can tell he was a cop. It was the worst acting ever. But like I said, Willy's not so bright. So he didn't realize that this person was a cop. So the cop went in, you know, for a couple days, he was kind of just like, you know, getting to know him, kind of befriending him, and he got him to confess. So Willy said that he was trying to reach 50 bodies, that he needed one more. That's him confessing to 49 murders, 49 women that he killed and fed to his pigs, or grinded up the meat and gave it away, or sold the meat. He doesn't show remorse. The only thing he said is that he got sloppy and that's why he got caught, which is not true, because the police weren't even looking at him. If it wasn't for those illegal guns, the police would have never gone after him, and he would have continued killing. And I don't think he would have stopped at 50. He would have kept going. I don't think Willy knows how many people he's killed. I don't think he'll ever get out. You know, I think he has, what, 6 more years in jail before he's eligible for parole, and I don't think they'll give it to him. He did horrible things, even if he's an old man. I don't think they should. But, you know, that's not up to me. Not a lot of evidence show how exactly he killed them. That's because, like, all the body parts were extremely decomposed. You know, they were just bones. So it was really hard to pinpoint of how he did it. Obviously, he did dismember them, and he did chop them up into bits and grounded them up. And there's evidence that he fed them to the pig. There's evidence that he gave meat to people that was odd meat. And he also discarded a lot of the meat at this plant, where they would use the body parts for other things, not knowing obviously that there were human body parts, or that they were just mixed with, you know, pig, you know, carcasses and things like that. Not a lot is known about how he killed people. It's just speculated because of witnesses' accounts. Again, like the 2 or 3 people that survived, he denies it still. Even though there's so much evidence against him, he'll deny it. He wrote a book, and he said that it was a conspiracy against him and his family because nobody ever liked them. And I'll show you guys a picture of him. He's pretty creepy. So yeah, I don't know. He gives me the chills every time I see his picture. Every time I had to Google him, I hate looking at his picture. He grosses me out. He creeps me out, and I can't imagine what these women went through. And it breaks my heart that they didn't get the respect and the help that they needed at the time. That was Robert Willy Pickton, a very notorious serial killer in Canada, who killed 49 women, confessed to 49 women, charged with 26 murders, only convicted of 6. He's currently in jail, and he's gonna be in jail probably for the rest of his life. He is eligible for parole in a couple years, but I don't see him getting out. It's unfortunate that he got away with so many murders, and especially of women who are typically sidelined, you know, by society and not treated with respect despite their profession. It's really, really sad. And the lack of effort, I hope, is now like a wake-up call, because this wasn't years ago. He was convicted in 2002. This is recent. This is a recent serial killer. It's not like, yeah, he started a long time ago, but his convictions and his murders ranged from 1978, 79 to 2001. That's like 19 years ago. That's not a lot of time. Thank God that they caught him and they stopped him from killing any more women. Definitely one of the most interesting serial killers that I've ever researched or ever even heard about, because you hardly don't hear about him. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I hope I didn't ramble too much or like miss some parts. Definitely encourage you guys to check out the podcast. They have way more detail. They really go into the psychology of every aspect of the story. If I went through that, this video would be a million years long. But those podcasters are amazing. They go into detail. They're very organized, and I really, really enjoy listening to them. So if you get a chance, go ahead and listen to it. It's awesome. So I don't really know what happened to my outro. Kind of just disappeared. I don't know. But anyways, if you like this type of content, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment if you want me to cover a certain serial killer. I'm gonna try to stay away from mainstream serial killers, you know, the ones that you always hear about, like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, just because there's so much content about them out there that I feel like it's kind of like an overkill for lack of better words. We just hear about them so much. I'm gonna try to do serial killers that you either never heard of or maybe haven't heard of enough, and I feel like it'll just be more interesting that way. Let me know, and I just want to say thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.